Everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today is Thursday, August 13th. We are now 82 days away from the November elections. Obviously, the Senate maps are continuing to take shape, and after Joe Biden's announcement that he is picking Kamala Harris to be his vice presidential pick, that obviously carries a lot of weight. And so in this video, instead of it being the usual prediction video that we do, instead what we're going to do is go state by state and determine whether or not Kamala Harris is going to help Joe Biden's chances or hurt him in these individual states. So let's go around the horn. We're going to get right into it. As we always do in the state of Hawaii, there's really nothing to talk about here. If anything, it probably helps Joe Biden. In the state of Alaska, what we have seen over the years with the Democratic Party is that the success that they've had in this state is often beholden to having candidates that can sort of relate to Alaskan politics. And unfortunately for them, they're never going to really be able to elect a black politician out here. That's not saying that all Alaskans are racist or anything like that, but it does go to show that there's a very large contingency of voters that prefers sort of the generic politician, which is why even the Democratic Party has only been able to elect Al Gross, or nominate Al Gross, and then go ahead with Mark Begich since then. So there's very little reason to believe. I'm sorry for the fluctuating brightness here. I'm outdoors, so I'm trying to conserve some battery power here. But in the state of Alaska, that's probably not going to help Joe Biden's chances. We're just going to, characterizations are probably going to remain the same for each state, but we're going to obviously elaborate on how the selection of Kamala Harris is going to affect them. In the state of Washington, this will probably help the Democratic Party's cause just a little bit. I wouldn't expect it to be too earth-shattering, but just a little bit. In the state of Oregon, probably the same thing. In the state of California, obviously you know what's going to happen here. This is about as safe a Democratic state as there is at the moment. In the state of Nevada, we have seen a bigger and bigger shift to the left over time. I think this is going to make this a safe state. I think independents and moderate Republicans that are, that may be Republicans but are very sympathetic towards the unionized workforce are going to come over to the Democratic Party after the selection of Kamala Harris. In the state of Idaho, we have seen that the Democratic Party has made some gains here. Remember, they have a black Senate candidate here, Paulette Jordan. And of course, there is a Democratic mayor of Boise now, but that's about all that they can do for now. But in the meantime, it's a pretty good result for the Democrats. So I would imagine this will kind of help their chances in Idaho, but it doesn't actually mean they have any chance to win it. In the state of Montana, I think that the Democrats, in this state, it's always a state to watch because remember, Barack Obama came pretty close to winning it here, got over 45% of the vote in 2008. Max Baucus, John Tester, of course, there's this big Senate race here. There's been a Democratic governor of the state of Montana since 2000. So clearly the Democrats have a lot of success in this state. So it'll be worth watching. I think that Kamala Harris, the selection will actually help Joe Biden's chances minimally here. It could help Steve Bullock's chances, which is important. We're going to get to that in our next Senate prediction video, which is coming out later tonight. So we're going to label that way. Wyoming, it's not going to have any effect. Utah, it's not going to have any effect. In Arizona, I think that this could have a little bit of an effect because I think you're going to have some people who've moved here, from LA, as we know, Maricopa County and Los Angeles, or Maricopa County and Phoenix is the biggest growing area in the United States. And as a result, I think what we're seeing is that, because people from suburban California have maybe moved into Arizona, that's going to help the Democratic Party. Remember, as of now, I still have this as a lean state for the Democrats. In New Mexico, if anything, it's going to help solidify that. Same in Colorado. These aren't really swing states anymore the way they used to be. In North Dakota, very white population, not going to make much of a difference. Same in South Dakota, not going to make much of a difference. Absolutely the same in Nebraska. Now, in Kansas, it's kind of worth watching because as we've seen in Kansas, there's been a big rejection of Chris Kobach and to a lesser extent, sort of a rejection of the Trumpism idea. And having a black vice presidential candidate might just suggest that the Democrats feel as though they can make something happen here, trying to win over some of those voters. Barbara Bollier is running a rather competitive race against Roger Marshall in the Senate after that Kansas primary. So this might actually help the Democrats ever so slightly, but on the presidential level, it's still a safe Republican state. Oklahoma, nothing to discuss there. There we go. Okay, in Texas, we've seen that voters here respond to minorities very well. Beto O'Rourke did well amongst minorities, so I think this is going to help Joe Biden's chances. As of now, this is still a tilt Republican state. In the state of Minnesota, obviously this, speaks to the issues that we've seen involving racial injustice. Again, that's just a fact. So I'm going to go with Minnesota being a safe state. Now, in Iowa, I think this is actually going to hurt the Democrats. Iowa is a very white state, not that many minority voters here. And so, if anything, I think, voters that might be on the fence that obviously are white might gravitate more to the Republican Party, just as Republicans often do. It's just, again, a fact. So I have this now as a lean Republican. I've usually had it as a tilt. In Missouri, I think it's the same thing. I kind of think it's the same as Iowa. I have this now as a likely Republican. Remember, Joe Biden won a couple polls in the state of Missouri, so it's worth just keeping an eye on. Arkansas, nothing to discuss there. Louisiana, it might make the margin just slightly closer. Is obviously a very large African-American population in the state of Louisiana, so that might help the Democrats. But remember, they didn't even field a Senate candidate until about 2 weeks ago. So on the presidential level, it's going to remain the same. Mississippi, that's going to help the Democrats. Okay, this is the largest minority population state in the country. So Mississippi right now is only a lean. Alabama, I also have it as a likely because I think Joe Biden will crack 40%. I fully expect Doug Jones to lose that election. Remember, in the 2017 special election Senate race, Doug Jones got 97% of the African-American vote in Alabama. That kind of tells you all you need to know. So that's probably going to help the Democratic Party's chances. In Florida, I think it might hurt them a little bit. Not picking Val Demings probably, I think picking Val Demings would have helped the Democrats. Even just a little bit of a boost in turnout in the Orlando area would have helped their cause. Instead, they went with Kamala Harris. I think it might slightly hurt Joe Biden. Right now, I still have this as a lean Democrat. In the state of Georgia, this is going to help Joe Biden. Big African-American population here. Of course, remember, this was the site of that very competitive gubernatorial race back in 2018 between Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams. And Stacey Abrams was able to win, or come very close, rather, to winning that race against Brian Kemp. Keisha Lance Bottoms, of course, is now running, or is expected to run for statewide office, either for governor or maybe for the Senate. As you know, that there are 2 Senate elections up this time around, and the Democrats might have a chance at one of them. John Ossoff is challenging David Perdue. So I think it's going to help the Democrats' chances here. I still have it as tilt Republican. South Carolina might help narrow it up. This is obviously this is the deep South down here, and this could help, having an African-American on the ticket is going to help the Democratic Party. Tennessee, not much to discuss here. It's still a safe state. North Carolina, this is obviously going to help. Big minority population here. I have this still as tilt Democrat, even though recent polls have shown Joe Biden in the lead. Kentucky, safe Republican state. West Virginia, safe Republican state. Illinois, safe Democratic state. Indiana, safe Republican state. Ohio, I don't think this has much of a difference. This is a white state by and large, very Catholic state. Even the Democrats are largely pro-life. I don't think this really helps Kamala Harris's chances here. I still have this as tilt Republican. Virginia is a safe Democratic state. Maryland, safe Democrat. D.C., safe Democrat. Sorry, I'm blowing through this. I'm just trying to do this before my laptop dies. There goes Delaware, safe. New Jersey, safe. Connecticut, safe. Rhode Island, safe. And Massachusetts, safe. I don't think this is going to help Joe Biden in Nebraska's, I believe it's the 3rd district, because that's a very white state. Even that area is largely very, very white. In Wisconsin, suburban voters in Milwaukee, black voters up in Milwaukee, this will probably help Kamala Harris. This is largely a white state, but there are some black voters that didn't turn out for Joe Biden, and that hurt, or didn't turn out for Hillary Clinton. That's going to help Joe Biden just as it hurt Hillary Clinton. So I think that that's going to help the Democrats. I have this as a lean Democrat right now. Michigan right now is a likely Democrat. This definitely helps them in suburban Detroit. Pennsylvania, turnout was low in suburban Philadelphia. That's going to help the Democratic Party. I have this right now as lean Democrat. New York is a safe Democratic state. Vermont is safe. New Hampshire, very white, but safe. And Maine, in total, not just that extra district, is also going to be safe Democrat. So there you have it. There's the map. And I think that in these swing states, with the exception of Florida, it's going to help Joe Biden's campaign. Whereas I don't think it helps him in Iowa. I don't think it helps him in Ohio. It helps him in Mississippi. It helps him in South Carolina. I don't think it, and Georgia. I don't necessarily think that it helps him in Texas a whole lot, but we'll see just whether or not it does, because I think a Hispanic would have helped the Democrats' chances in Texas a lot more. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know that was a lot of information in just a few minutes. Thank you so much again for watching. Hit the subscribe button on the left if you haven't already, and comment down in the suggestions below any questions you may have about anything I broke down in this video or any questions you may have about your individual state. So thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in November.